Welcome to Emuna is Our Future. We're dealing with tragedy, dealing with these tragic times that we've gone into, not just as a nation but as the world, with the sad news of the passing of Rabbi Lord Sacks, someone who I look up to very, very much and has inspired me very much as part of this Emuna is Our Future series. He's someone who gives me the ability to communicate and improve myself on a daily level. And it's a tragic on a daily level. That's right, it's a tragic moment. We're just making sure everything's set up. Let's just get this. It's the first time I'm using this new thing, so you just have to excuse me one moment. Here we go. There we go. Thank God we got new equipment for our Emuna Tour class going live tomorrow night with Rav Shalom Arush, and we'll be having our rabbi here in the studio next to me. I'll be sitting on the other side, and we'll be welcoming your questions. We already have, thank God, a large list of response and questions. It's exciting that you guys get to join us on a weekly level with the rabbi, Rav Shalom Arush, and he also is an inspiration. He's our host here in Chesed in Breslev, Israel. And this is the kind of people we need in our world right now, more than ever, to inspire us. But so how do we deal when something tragic happens? God forbid everyone should be healthy and well. Please God, the coronavirus should go away. But how do we process the passing of such a great man like Rabbi Lord Sacks? That's what we're going to discuss today, alongside some other updates. And my feeling, I'm feeling very emotional, bottom line, is when I found out after Shabbat this week came out, and a new week, new opportunity, I didn't feel totally great inside. Something, you get these little gut feelings that something's off, and I was feeling that, but I didn't know where to put it. Why am I feeling off? I'm hoping this week's going to be good. You come out of Shabbat, the day of rest, the Shabbos, after connecting, and you've disconnected to reconnect, and you're feeling closer to Hashem, but at the same time the week's coming on and what you have to take care of, and you need to suddenly start thinking about, what's ahead of me. And suddenly comes online, Twitter, Facebook, everything there, Rabbi Lord Sacks, Baruch Dayan Emes, and it's an ocean of feeling and heartfelt emotion, not just by the Jewish people, but the whole world. And that's been this last few days. I'm sure everyone who's listening now live and who's been involved spiritually, emotionally, or even physically and had the merit to meet Rabbi Sacks is feeling the loss. And for me, coming from London and growing up in part of the United Synagogue world, I didn't go so much, honestly. I actually never met Rabbi Sacks, even though my wife has and my parents have. In fact, my parents even brought me a siddur when they came to Israel once, which was from Rabbi Sacks, and had a nice message from Rabbi Sacks to me. And I really appreciated that siddur. But one of the inner ways of processing, at first it just felt dark. It felt loss. I felt like, who is going to fill this space? In the world, who is there that can communicate with such clarity, with such dignity, and with such intelligence? Yeah, and someone just posted now on a Facebook Live, there is definitely a lot of, classes right now which reflect what you're saying about freaking out. I'd prefer to use the word anxiety or concern. Personally, I wouldn't get too dramatic, like this person mentioned a Holocaust, God forbid. Please God, the world has learned from history, and we as a people have learned, and we should never have to see such a tragic experience like the Holocaust. And that's something which I don't think we'll ever recover until the Mashiach is here from such a tragic event. If anyone was watching online recently, I'll mention it just because it's very inspiring. But Shlomi Zion, who we had in the studio speaking about unity with Rav Shalom Arush, and he's a great writer as part of Ami magazine, and he was on a very nice YouTube channel, Pizza something, San Diego or something, And he was on that channel introducing the world to the Hasidic community. And it was very encouraging. And he himself mentioned there that, a lot of the people in this community have gone through the Holocaust or were from survivors who went through the Holocaust. And I have Rabbonim who I'm very inspired by who went through the Holocaust. Now, Rabbi Sacks, I believe, was in London as I was growing up. I wasn't alive then, but my father was. And that was a different experience, having such a upbringing in England. We heard about the Blitz and all the different crazy bombings and struggles and ration cards that the English Jewry went through, and all the refugees that came through. And of course, everyone has a different historic experience, but if you go into Rabbi Sacks' bio, the point which really stuck out was when he was in university and he was starting to make his life decisions. That was, as well as his special upbringing from his father and his brothers, and his mother, but to have that moment in university, that picture that he could have gone in any direction, become a lawyer or anything other than what he became, and we would have lost all that inspiration, that we have to touch base with something which was fundamental. If you go to Tim Ferriss's interview of Rabbi Sacks, I just reposted on some of my network. Tim Ferriss is an amazing podcaster and interviewer, probably one of the best interviewers around, and he mentions about Rabbi Sacks meeting Lubavitcher Rebbe. That's the conversation point that I want to focus on. And that was a very profound moment for Rabbi Sacks. That was where he learned, as my friend rightly put when I shared the link today, that the leadership that he understood, it's not just about finding leadership, which is what Rabbi Sacks was doing then. He was traveling around America while he was in Cambridge, and he was looking for that next level of guidance for his life. And thankfully, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, when he heard that he was trying to get in, made time and sought him out and brought him in and spoke with him and empowered him to become a leader, and they developed their relationship till he became the chief rabbi of the Commonwealth and the British Empire, whatever's left of that, but became the chief rabbi of England, of the UK, and he is the former chief rabbi. And me personally, that was where I met him as a kid, growing up, as he was on TV and seeing him always, giving very respectful speeches, and knowing that my family had connection with him through shul. So that was my upbringing, and that compared to his, I had my time in university, I also was seeking leadership. But the key point was that he was empowered to become a leader. That was the message that he left us with, that we can all become leaders. That was the energy he took from Lubavitcher Rebbe, those inspiring words, and he was able to bring it out in a way that not only empowered him to leadership, but empowered everyone around him. I just heard his daughter give a eulogy to him. It's on YouTube. You can look at it now on Rabbi Sacks' YouTube channel. And it's amazing the way you feel that he built new generation of leaders. His daughter herself has become a leader in her way of communication and her love for her father, and the legacy, how it continues to live on. Now, we are in a transition time for all of us. I mean, we just went through the American election. It's now winter. I'm wearing my jumper or sweater, as we call it in England, a jumper. You guys call it probably a sweater, or wherever you are in the world, you call it different names, pullover. It's got cold and it's intense, the transition time, because the world is changing. England right now itself is on lockdown. The chief rabbi of England couldn't even be at the funeral of Rabbi Sacks, and many thousands and thousands of us that would have been and would have loved to have brought him here to the Holy Land to be buried here, or be where he was buried in England, to have somehow made it there, or at least have more of a communal experience. Once again, that's been prevented thanks to the Corona challenge that we're still going through. And in Israel, the lockdown is lessening, but it's very gradual, and it's with a lot of patience. Because, for example, you go to a shop, you have to stand outside for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, no, not that extreme. Stand out for an hour and wait for between every, only 4 people at a time. So all the closed shops are people waiting to get the new season. It's a bit of a balagan going on out in the streets in Jerusalem, if anyone wants to go visit right now. And it's going to be this whole gradual process. Still a lot of shops not open. Maybe some won't be opening at all. So we're definitely in a challenging time. And when you're in such a challenging time, you don't want someone like Rabbi Sacks, who was such a voice up until his sudden tragic passing. It was just like caught us all off guard. We were just starting to pray for him. We heard he was unwell. We're praying, and suddenly the machla, the disease, just took him out. And it was very sudden in a very weird, profound way. At the same time, we're hearing that Biden is now apparently going to become the president of the US. And we have to internalize these two crazy transitions in our life. Like, I'm not going to get my weekly Parsha class from Rabbi Sacks. I'm not going to get my opportunity to tune into him when there's a climatic change or a drastic change in the world, like 9/11, and he wrote that unbelievable book, or all the struggles we've had with terrorism and how he's so eloquently discussed it, and all the different lack of unity and divisiveness has gone on more and more as time's going on in the world. And he's been that voice of steady calm and that middle path of clarity and guidance that everyone in the world feels comforted by. And fine, there are some people, like in every great person there, who are opposing him. You know, I never actually asked Rav Arush himself. I'm sitting in his studio, so we have to have that respect. That, you know, does he know Rabbi Sacks? Has he had connection? I don't know. Maybe it's a question we can ask on when we have our shir tomorrow night. It'll be something you guys can remind me to ask. And I mean, I'm dedicating this class to Rabbi Sacks' memory and his legacy. And I'm asking you all now, as we start to internalize this and sort this out, I'm asking all of you, how can you deal with this in a real way? Like, people have, God forbid, through the coronavirus, gone through real tragedies in their families and friends, work, losing a job. It can be very tragic. You don't feel that stability, that ability to pay your bills or to cover things that are important, like education for children, and even the education system's having all kinds of struggles. And then resources, like I mentioned the other week, you don't have the availability to access therapy or medical things that are needed, or business opportunities. People have been generating a lot of momentum over the years. There's all these, like, you know, motivational speakers trying to get people to be successful, and now this is really the real time to be motivated, because this is the hardest. As Gedalia Fencer, all the training, all the years, he always says that now this is where it's really being pushed to the limit. Now we really get to prove ourselves, and now we get to take all those teachings from all our great teachers like Rav Shalom is teaching us about Aspodidus, and they're connecting. How do we bring it alive? How do we bring the Garden of Emuna series alive? How do we bring all of Rabbi Sacks' like extensive works, extensive amount of emails I've had on my phones over the years, all that guidance? How do we start to bring it alive in our daily life so that we can live now, in this time, right now, and as we're getting into the winter of 2020, 5781, with a corona challenge? How do we bring it alive so that we don't get pulled down, God forbid, into a sort of depressed, you know, God forbid, I didn't want to say the words, but to give up kind of mindset? How can we ever give up? There's no giving up. And we know that with all those teachings, all that guidance, all that energy, that's the time it was preparing us for now. It was all preparing us for this moment right now. And that was the light from Avram Avinu. Remember Avram Avinu, our great forefather? He was able to empower all the generations with his holy kindness and his holy avoda, and all the 10 tests that we spoke about that he went through with his holy soulmate, Sarah Emuna, our foremother. And they were able to transform the struggles that they went through to have children, and to be able to build the new generation with Yitzhak Avinu. And to, like we see in this week's Parsha, we start the Parsha with tragedy. We start Chai Sarah Emenu, our foremother, has passed away. And now Avram Avinu comes back from such a big test of Kenis Yitzhak. He didn't come back and have his wife waiting for him with, you know, a hug or whatever it is, a food and drink and a whole situation of celebration, and they got through the test. He came back to bury his wife, and Avram Avinu had to deal with that. As we see from our forefathers, that often in this world there's a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, and it's not easy. No one said it's easy. As we posted initially, I was going to call this class, you know, the challenge of dealing with new beginnings are always difficult. That's what it says in Chazal. So becoming the beginning of the Jewish people and that light to the world that the world so much, thank God, can gain from, that beginning days, that beginning foundation of such a reality in the world, and we read and tap into it on an internal level right now in Parshas Chai Sarah, that Avraham Avinu is burying his wife and he's giving us the strength to go ahead. And he does. What does he do straight after burying his wife? He then is beginning to look for a shidduch for his son, Yitzchak Avinu. Not only now has he bought a part of the land, the Holy Land, so he has now an acquisition in Eretz Yisrael. He owns Hebron, it's his property and his descendants' property till now. Not only is that happening, but there's also now the reality that Avraham Avinu has the ability to create a new marriage for his son Yitzchak with Rivka. Personally, my daughter was born this week, Rivka. So came down the soul, Rivka. Last week's Pasha, the end of last week's Pasha, and we have the celebration of the Chosna of Yitzchak Avinu this week's Pasha. Last week was his birth, and his and also his bris milah, and now and now this week we're celebrating his wedding and his continuation of having children with Yaakov, and the continuation with Esav, his brother, and how the world starts becoming reality that we see now. We have this beginning stages. It's all in the forming stage, which is usually the most delicate and gentle and has to be done in a very sensitive way. And that was Avram and Yitzchak Yaakov's power. They were forming the formation, the blueprint of creation at that time till all of eternity. So when we look into Avram's light, as we come in, it says he was Bevarach B'Kol. He had everything. He had everything he needed, including a daughter as well. It says in the explanations that he was blessed with everything by the end of his life. But that mindset of being Samech B'Chelko, of B'Kol Mikol Kol, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, of every one of them being happy with what they had and being able to pass that over to others, to empower us. So that's what we have to do. We have to take this tragic time of Rabbi Lord Sacks passing away, Jonathan Sacks, and I think his Hebrew name, someone can post it there, should be a merit for him. And we should have the ability, I think it's Yaakov is one of his names, part I remember. So we should have in mind that what we're doing is a continuation of all our great teachers until now. And thank God we have Rav Arush here. He should be well, Havda ben Chaim L'chaim, he should be well until 120. We should pray for our leaders to be healthy. One of the things I do on Rosh Hashanah personally, I really pray sincerely for all our leaders, all the people that speak, but not only that we should become leaders. That's the point of Rabbi Sacks. We ourselves should be empowered. And he also said an important thing in Tim Ferriss's interview. He spoke about the importance of having a close group of friends who believe in you more than you believe in yourself, who empower you to do your role in the world. And that's something that was funny, it was in my group of friends that we were talking about this, but we're all here together to empower each other. You should make sure your group of friends, the people you're connected to online, that you speak to daily, the ones you actually talk to either face to face or through the different, WhatsApp groups or whatever it is, they're people who inspire you to live more fulfilled, more empowered, to believe more and more in your ability to make this world a positive place. That's the kind of people you need to surround yourself with. All the great, speakers nowadays and people who thank God who are influencers in a good way, they talk about how it's so important to have a good sphere of influence, people that inspire you, and not to be around people that, God forbid, take away from your ability to impact. So I bless everyone who's listening in that we should learn from Rabbi Sacks. Go to his large empire of books and his channels and get inspiration to go ahead. And those, God forbid, that oppose Rabbi Sacks, there are people out there, and it's not so hard to find them online. I have no opposition towards them, and I'm not trying to get involved in their opposition to Rabbi Sacks on any level. Baruch Hashem, I'm just drawing out the part that has inspired me to grow and become, thank God, in my own little way, a little leader in my little sphere of influence, my family, my friends, hopefully a little bit on these Torah classes, these Emuna classes, that we get a little bit of inspiration together and to learn a bit and to hopefully become a better version of myself and to help others become better versions of themselves. And this kind of positive focus, unity focus, this needs to be the focus. So the opposition that's out there is irrelevant, because in the end, life is so short. To waste your time arguing and finding the problems in everyone. Who has time for that? I was writing in my United Souls book recently how life is so precious every minute. Like suddenly Rabbi Sacks was here and he wasn't here. You know, suddenly people with functioning great families, and suddenly they're no longer in a situation where they have a full family. Someone passed away due to this, due to that, God forbid. And we have to really appreciate the people in our life, appreciate the gift of life, to turn this colder time and warm it up with love. And that's one of the things I get so inspired by, like from Avram and Sarah and Rivka, Yitzhak and Rivka, and the whole Shidduch process. Eliezer, my name's Eliezer, went out to find the Shidduch, and comes Rivka into the home, and there's a joy that returns to Yitzhak, and to appreciate the relationships, healthy relationships around us. Like Rabbi Sacks was a role model of marriage. I went home to my family in London, and not religious, beautiful family. I grew up, thank God, very well. But they're not religious in an open sense. But they had a beautiful article in the Sunday Times, like a very secular English newspaper, and it was a whole bunch of pages talking about the marriage of Rabbi Sacks and his beautiful journey with his wife Elaine, I think that's her name. And they together made a Kiddush Hashem in all the English press about their marriage, just their marriage, not the things he spoke about so intelligently. And the question is, that comes back to me. I talk about unity and my unity podcast and relationship podcast, and our Emuna is our future podcast, and I now, thank God, was just on a podcast called Think Torah, and I spoke about my own hopes and dreams with Rav Arush and our Emuna Torah and all the bookings for Nissan Black, and we're trying again to get the Hanukkah Torah up on the road. We're not giving up, and we're trying to push as much as we can to create positive energy, positive events, positive words of inspiration in our life. So we're trying. And tomorrow night, like we said, Boker Tov from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I love it when I see this person. It gives me joy. We're reaching Oklahoma. The US is alive here. So we have the opportunity tomorrow night to have Yoni Gabali. He's going to come on this side of me. He's going to play the guitar and sing. I mean, his friend Aaron Lagman's going to play the guitar, but he's going to sing, and they're going to make great music together for us. And the Emuna Torah, it's going to be soulful music. And that in itself, for me, is my comfort. That there's soul. We have a soul. The Rabbi Sacks' soul. And that's one of my best friends said to me Saturday night when I heard the news and we spoke to each other in London. I was on the phone and we're talking, and he's just saying, like, it's the point is that he's now up in the world of truth, and he's influencing now everything from that place. So what we get down here, like the elections or this or that, or we're happy about the election, whatever it is, whatever our political persuasion is, we're not getting political, but the point is, whatever the situation is, economically, struggles, health-wise, everyone's having some sort of people. Someone wants to talk how they have the find their shidduch, and once again we get inspiration from this week's parsha to get a shidduch, all this kind of stuff that's going on and on and on in an intense way. And we have to suddenly think and breathe. I have a soul. Rabbi Sacks has a soul. And his soul is communicating to us now from the higher world, from the true world, without all the blocks of the body, without the blocks of the physical restraints. And he's communicating us. He's sending us even more inspiration than he was down here. And he's praying for his family and for his friends, and we wish them all comfort and long life. And he's reaching out to our generation. He's understanding on a very, very deep level. He was just here in this world before this weekend, for Shabbos, and he saw all the divisiveness, saw all the pain, saw all the struggle, the coronavirus, and he's up now with Hashem and all the Tzaddikim and all the righteous people, and he's beseeching on our behalf how to make the world more. I'm just getting the YouTube back on track. There we go. And this will be on YouTube, Facebook, our podcast. He's getting the world back to a place of positivity. And that's something which is really exciting, the ability to have someone, Melitz Yosher, to seek out for us in the higher worlds and in that place of truth. And that's important to remember, that we're not only in this world, as painful as it is when a soul leaves this world, but one of the comforts is it's a soul, it's an neshama. And that's the idea with the music we want to bring here. It has to be soulful music that inspires our soul, not pulls us down to be more physical, to lift us up, to elevate the physical. And that was one of the great lessons from Rabbi Sacks. He went around the world and he inspired the world to become more spiritual. Even the atheists were friends of Rabbi Sacks, and he was able to inspire them, hopefully on some level, or at least the people listening in, to clarify their arguments, to bring out the truth of spirituality, of the soul. And that soul talk went all the world, went more global more than anyone. That TED talk that he put up has gone to millions. Unbelievable talk about we becoming more selfless, becoming more soulful, caring for other people. This is the kind of traits from Avram Avinu and the idea of sharing that light with the world. And we come to Yitzhak Avinu now. We come to that time in this week's parsha. We're transitioning now to the time more of Gevurah, of getting that strength in place so we can deal with tragedy. All of us should have the power to turn around the tragic moments in our lives and to turn them into moments of strength and resilience and courage and power, and do our jobs, all of us, to take those lessons of truth and kindness and peace and to bring it with strength and power, no matter what's going on, no matter what the situation is in the global world and with the Corona challenge, that we can do our mission with simcha and joy and with Emuna. And we can apply the lessons of Rav Arush. We can keep developing that relationship with Hashem, to have that hour to clean off our heart so that all the baggage that comes sometimes and allows us the ability to process things, talk to Hashem, allow Him to heal our hearts, to help us, to give us the strength to do everything. And that's the key with this Spodidus. We're talking to Hashem with that relationship, that Emuna Torah that we're working on here. I'll see you tomorrow night, please God, and you'll send us your questions. We'll take this time to strengthen ourselves even more, chazak v'yamatz, and go ahead with the rest of this winter with simcha and joy, and we should see all the tragedy turn into joy and happiness for the whole world, including the Sacks family and all of the community of the world, to rejoice together with the Tchias HaMesim and us all with resurrection of the dead and the Binyan Bayis Shlishi B'Mehei V'Meinu Amen. We'll have that third temple. It's going to be glorious. Can't wait to see you there. Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy. Thanks for listening. Share on, please.